We taught sand to think. That is not a figure of speech. We took silicon, the most common and least regarded material on the planet, arranged it with great care, and taught it to do one thing: predict. And out of prediction came something that, in every sense the mathematics can make precise, is thought. Not an imitation of thought hung on the outside of a machine. Thought done by the machine. Because prediction carried far enough stops being a model of the thing and becomes the thing itself. That is the claim this whole series is built to take seriously. It is the thesis of the book on intelligence and its specifications. And by the end, you will see why it is not hyperbole. It all begins with a question that sounds far too small to carry the weight. Here is what a large language model actually does, underneath all the noise. You give it the text so far. It answers one question and only one: what is the next token? Not the whole reply. Just the next small piece, a word or part of a word, drawn as a probability over everything that could come next. Then it appends that piece and asks again. Predict, append, repeat. GPT, Claude, and Llama are all, at heart, next token predictors. And that is the surprise. From that single operation, run again and again, everything else emerges. Translation, working code, step-by-step reasoning, a conversation that holds together across an hour. Nobody wrote a separate module for any of them. They are all what it looks like to predict the next token well enough, for long enough. And prediction was never only about language. Compress a file, and you are guessing its next byte. Forecast a market, and you are guessing its next move. Flag a fraud, and you are noticing a symbol your model did not expect. The same problem, wearing different clothes. But the large language models are the spectacular proof. The place where prediction, pushed hard enough, started to look like understanding. Why should predicting the next word have anything to do with understanding? Because of what it takes to do it well. To finish the sentence, the capital of France is, you need a fact about the world. To finish, the murderer turned out to be, you need to have followed the whole story. To predict the next word reliably, across everything people write, you have to build a model of the world that produced the words. There is no shortcut around meaning. And there is a second thread, older and exact, that ties this to compression. It runs back to Claude Shannon, who founded information theory in 1948. Shannon showed that predicting a sequence and compressing it are the same act. The better you can guess what is coming, the fewer bits you need to write it down. So prediction, compression, and understanding are not three separate skills. They are three names for one thing. Shannon even fixed the exchange rate between them. Take the next symbol, and suppose your model gives it some probability. Call that number the symbol P. The ideal cost to record the outcome is then minus the logarithm of that probability, measured in bits. Something you called almost certain costs almost nothing to say. Something surprising costs a great deal. Surprise, counted in bits, is the currency that prediction and compression share. A better model of the world is, quite literally, a shorter description of it. If prediction is this central, you might hope there is a single best way to do it. There is. It was written down in the 1960s by Ray Solomonoff. His idea is this: to predict what comes next, consider every possible explanation of the data so far, every program that could have produced it, and weight each one by its simplicity. Shorter explanations count for more. That is Occam's razor, turned from advice into arithmetic. Sum those weighted guesses, and you get the universal prior. The single most general predictor there is. And it comes with a theorem. Whatever computable process is really generating your data, the universal prior converges to it, given enough of the sequence. It learns anything that can be learned. There is exactly one catch, and it runs deep. The optimal predictor cannot be computed. To run it exactly, you would have to try infinitely many programs and know in advance which ones ever halt, and that knowledge is provably out of reach. The ideal is real, and it sits forever just past the edge of what any machine can do. So where does that leave the systems we actually have? Today's large language models do not run this ideal. They approximate it crudely with bounded time and finite memory. They are, in the words of the book, crude, bounded, partial shadows of the optimal predictor. And yet they are the closest thing anyone has ever built. Close enough that the resemblance is not a metaphor. The very next episode goes back to that ideal and to Solomonoff in full. So here is what this series does. It builds sequence prediction from the top down. We start at the ideal, Solomonoff's universal predictor. Then we come down to the classical methods that actually run, n-grams and context tree weighting, which predicts by betting on many patterns at once. Then down again to the modern engines, neural networks, and the transformers behind today's large language models. One ladder from the perfect and impossible down to the practical and everywhere, so that you understand why these systems work and exactly where they break. One honest boundary before we begin. This series is about how a machine predicts. What an agent ought to do with that power and how you would make it want the right things is a real and serious question. But it is a different story for a different playlist. Here we stay with prediction itself. It all comes back to one small question, asked over and over. What comes next? Follow that question far enough, and it stops being a puzzle about sequences and becomes the thing we call intelligence. Let us begin.